Nurmagomedov, he steps down, but then you have Umar Nurmagomedov.
He looks great.
Phenomenal. Completely different style.
Yep.
His so dynamic. His kicking is so dynamic. It's so dangerous and quick. Dude, he's good. He's real good. His striking was on point. Like, everything was on point, and he's more threatening wrestling.
A rising star in the world of mixed martial arts, Umar Nurmagomedov began his life steeped in the traditions of combat sports.
I have a dream. I want to be for one line with John Jones, Khabib, Demetrius Johnson, GSP. For this goal, I think I need 5 more years in this sport.
Alongside his brother Usman, and with the mentorship of their legendary uncle, Abdul Manap, Umar was destined for greatness from the very beginning.
Umar Nurmagomedov is the toughest challenge for any of those dudes, including myself. He's seen his brother and his cousin win world titles, and he wants to be next.
Umar was born in Kyzylyurt, Dagestan on January 3, 1996. In his early years, he and his brother Usman would begin training in freestyle wrestling before eventually including Muay Thai as an interest.
My 2 young eagles, 2 brothers actually, both undefeated.
Both brothers took to combat sports, and it became a no-brainer for the pair to train with their uncle, Abdul Manap. Who was already having incredible success with Khabib and Islam in the UFC.
This my belt for my coach, Abdul Nurmagomedov.
By the time he was 19, Umar became a combat sambo world champion at the WCSF World Championships. The following year, he won the bantamweight division in amateur mixed martial arts at the WMMAA World Championship. And with that dream foundation for success, the pro leagues were just around the corner. After demolishing Rishat Karisov in his first professional bout, the next victim to place their head on the chopping block was Ulukbek Amanbayev, who found out just how dangerous Umar can be as a finisher. Not soon after came even more impressive victories over Ali Misabayev and Valisher Rakhmonov, neither of which stood much of a chance against the young Dagestani. Having secured a further victory over Nauruz Zamikov, Nurmagomedov took a step up in competition to fight Shuti Yamauchi. A fighter with a 16-8 record, Yamauchi had considerably more experience than Umar's previous opponents, but it wouldn't prove enough to withstand what Nurmagomedov brought to the table. Now establishing himself as a noteworthy talent outside of the UFC, Umar found himself matched up with fellow prospect Fatkidin Sobirov. Sobirov was an impressive 13-1 at the time, with several impressive finishes. However, when it came to fight night, Nurmagomedov proved he was by far the more quality up-and-comer of the two. Fatkidin bounced back with 2 solid wins, but upon his arrival to the ACB promotion, he seemed to struggle on the bigger stages on the regional scene. But the journey for Umar was far from over. It was at this point the young prospect would make his first appearance in the Professional Fighters League, where he shut out fellow undefeated fighter, Saidyokub Kakramonov.
Umar Nurmagomedov!
Undeterred by his first loss, Kakramonov continued to scrap it out on the regional scene, and even worked his way into the UFC. Unfortunately for Yokub, one lost to Said Nurmagomedov, and the promotion felt they had seen enough of his talents. Umar briefly returned to the Battle on Volga promotion to face off against Wagner Lima, whom he dominated in classic Nurmagomedov fashion. However, Umar was frustrated with his recent run of decision victories, and so made sure in his fight with Taras Gritskev that the judges would not be necessary. Nurmagomedov then returned to the PFL to take on Sidamar Honorio, someone who had a promising career up until facing Umar, but then never won a professional contest afterwards. Despite being recognized as one of the best prospects in the world, Umar was still trying his best to get noticed by Dana in the UFC. But after his round 1 submission victory over Brian Gonzalez, the 23-year-old Russian had proved he was more than ready for the big show.
I felt like Islam
was the next version of Khabib. He possessed the same type of wrestling skill and grappling, but he was just a little bit cleaner, better striker. I think Umar is the next level of that, right? Where he possesses the striking, he possesses the wrestling, but he's also got great grappling, and his striking, he can do more. Whereas Islam's not spinning. Islam's not doing those kind of weird diverse kicks. Umar can, right? So these Russian guys just keep jumping levels.
In his UFC debut, Umar would be matched up with the highly respected regional champion, Sergey Morozov.
2 times already, but a big right retaliated hand here.
For Sergey Morozov.
That is enough.
Morozov, who was also making his UFC debut, was not only the former M1 global champion, but had already fought top-tier competition on the regional scene, such as Movsar Ivloev.
Можно ли сказать, что Умар это самый серьезный твой соперник в карьере или нет?
Блин, я так не могу сказать. Умар молодой, перспективный боец, набирающий хорошие обороты, с громкой фамилией. Ну ты знаешь, я никогда бойцов себе не выбирал, бился со всеми подряд.
When the cage door finally set on the two newcomers, the levels ahead of Sergey, and polished him off in round 2 with a constrictor-like rear naked choke.
Umar, congratulations. Big win on your UFC debut. How does it feel?
Thank you so much. I'm feeling great. I think now is history. This is. You're not ready for English, please.
Not one to be easily demoralized, Morozov returned to the win column in his next fight over Khalid Taha, and after a tough fight with Silva de Andrade, he's currently riding a 2-fight win streak. Having seen how Umar deals with fellow debutants, the UFC was naturally curious to see how Nurmagomedov would fare against a hard-nosed veteran. And they had just the man in mind.
Teeing off and then kicking the calf. Back with a slam, but so smart. Wow.
Kelleher, one of the other.
There's a kill! Ryan Kelleher! Oh, big punch!
I like challenges, you know, that's part of this game, and trying to figure out like how good you really are. So I like fighting an undefeated guy with that last name with a lot of hype behind him. Like that motivates me. You know, make him feel my pressure and make him kind of panic a little bit. You know, I think undefeated guys, they got a lot of pressure. You know, he wants to keep that O and he wants to stay undefeated with that name, that last name. You know, Khabib went undefeated his whole career. I'm sure that's in the back of his mind. He wants to kind of repeat that whole thing. So yeah, I'm out there to steal that.
A member of the UFC since 2017, Brian Kelleher represented the most skilled and tested opponent Umar had faced so far. But all of that experience would prove no match for the youth and skill put on display by the Dagestani powerhouse.
I think he's definitely got the potential. I mean, he's a really good grappler, and his striking actually, you know, for Nurmagomedov, his striking is actually probably better than his grappling. Throws really good kicks, he's fast.
After the defeat, Kelleher was never able to find his form again, and suffered 3 further defeats via finish to Mario Bautista, Cody Garbrandt, and Cody Gibson.
Umar Nurmagomedov he's a problem.
Now 2-0 in the UFC, it made sense for Umar to face someone else on a hot streak.
Both stances is a very... Manus boost.
Lip. Oh!
He's got that choke! Wow! The tap! Nate Manus!
Nate Maness had won all 3 of his UFC fights in the build-up to his fight with Umar, and now a place within the bantamweight top 15 was at stake.
You got to respect the grappling of those guys, you know, submissions and wrestling. But the thing about Umar is he actually does pretty well in the stand-up. You know, he's got really good kicks, teep kicks. He's got a good question mark kick. But at the end of the fight, man, my hand will be raised. I get paid the same, so 4 minutes in sounds just as good as 15 minutes in. So, yeah, definitely going to put him out.
In the end, the superior wrestling and distance management of Umar would prove too much for Maness to handle, leading to a one-sided scorecard for Nurmagomedov.
I don't care if they give, I'm ready. If they give me quick road, I'm ready. If they give slowly, I'm ready. For me, important to win every my fight, and one of the day, it's gonna be happen. You have to become champion.
Nate would go 2-1 in his next 3 UFC fights, but in an interesting turn of events decided not to resign with the UFC, and instead sign on to the BKFC promotion, where he's set to make his debut in December.
Umar will do a good job, and I would say a better job than young, early on Khabib did.
Now a ranked member of the UFC bantamweight division, the path to a title shot became more clear for the rising contender. This didn't mean that competition was easy to find, however, and many fighters ranked higher than Umar didn't want the smoke.
Speaking of bantamweights, do you know what the latest with Umar Nurmagomedov is?
Everybody's asking. Yeah, we were talking about him earlier. You know, that's a guy not everybody's beating the door down to fight. So
keen not to keep a new star on the sidelines, Umar was booked to take on longtime UFC vet Raoni Barcelos.
Barcelos. Oh, he's clipped him.
Man, great left hook.
Oh, big right. Couple of them. To go to the ground with him. Oh, the big kibosh. Look at that. Barcelos threading the right hand. Oh, and now he sneaks to the back. Ooh, nasty knee.
Barcelos had a mixed bag of performances in the UFC so far, but had never been finished in the promotion, something Umar quickly changed.
Oh, my goodness! How about that? Explosion!
Since losing to Umar, Raoni has continued to be inconsistent, and should he come up short to another prospect in Peyton Talbot, his days in the Premier League of MMA could be numbered.
I told I wanna fight with anybody. Nobody don't say, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna fight with you. Where are you guys? I'm here in the cage.
It became apparent at this point that nobody at bantamweight wanted to risk their career fighting Umar. Despite being on the brink of breaching the UFC top 10, Dana and the matchmakers would have to bring in fighters from outside the roster who would be willing to take the risk. Enter Beksat Almakan.
Yeah.
A 10-1 regional prospect who had been impressing hardcore fans in the Octagon Fighting Championship. Although Beksat should be commended for taking the fight, his skill set would not prove enough to get the better of Nurmagomedov. A silver lining, though, is he will have certainly put himself in the UFC good books for taking the fight, and many fans wait with great anticipation to see how he performs against typical UFC competition.
I hope it's gonna be more easy. This guy monster.
You win this fight, do you have to start calling people by name?
You think it's gonna be work? I don't know. They just talking about he don't deserve, he not beat nobody. How I didn't beat nobody? 4-0, it's not bad.
Just when it seemed impossible to find a ranked UFC fighter for Umar to compete against, a surprise announcement revealed that Nurmagomedov's next fight would be with none other than Corey Sandhagen.
Corey's good. He's so diverse. He's got so much going on. I love watching that guy fight because, like, when he's going after folks, he's giving them so many looks.
I'm gonna go toe-to-toe with Umar and everything. Grappling, striking. I'm gonna prove that I'm better at every single area of this fight. I'm gonna prove that I'm better than him. And on Saturday, I plan on shaking Khabib's hand. I plan on shaking Umar's hand and apologizing and saying I'm sorry that I had to beat you.
Fans were eager to see how Umar would look against the very best of the division. After all, Sandhagen had already proven he was contender material. But when the cage door finally shut, Umar proved just why he was the boogeyman of 135. Relentless drive and dedication to the sport have set Umar apart as one of the elite bantamweights in the UFC today. From his early days training under the watchful eye of his uncle Abdulmanap to each decisive victory in the octagon, Umar has demonstrated that he's not just a fighter, he's a force to be reckoned with. With his impressive skill set and continued growth in the sport, the question now becomes who will be the one to finally test this rising star.
I think Umar should get a title shot after the winner of Merab and Dvalishvili.
As the competition in the bantamweight division heats up, it's only a matter of time before the champion will have to answer to Umar Nurmagomedov.